BMAC is back on Skype with an old friend of mine that has been who's probably one of the best hard rock singers of our generation, and he's getting ready to put out a brand new album with his other supergroup that he works with, Wet. The name now, mind you, the name is an anagram, and we're going to talk about it a little later. And I'm very excited to speak with him again. Last time we talked, we were talking about Sons of Apollo, but now we're talking about this group. They're back at it with their new upcoming album, which we will talk about as well. So please help me welcome the guy who will give Freddie Mercury and Sam Cooke a run for their money when it comes to the vocal, Mr. Jeff Scott Soto. How you doing, Jeff?
With an intro like that, I pretty much there's nothing left to say. I mean, you might as well just hang up now. How do I live
Okay,
up?
goodbye.
You can't live up to that. Come on, that's a lot of pressure, dude.
Well, you know what? Don't think of it as any pressure. Just think of it as flattery, because I really do enjoy your singing, man.
I thank you, and I take it as such. And how you holding up?
Well, last time we talked, you were going ready to head to Europe, just right before COVID hit. We were talking about Sons of Apollo, and then, well, all the pandemics happen, and it's tough without live shows for me personally. But I'm just hanging in there and still get to hear new music, especially from your new group or from your other super group, which is nice.
Well, you know what? That's kind of been that's the saving grace, so to speak. It's this in terms of not only do I get to be creative and I get to utilize this time that I have to be home and I have to be stuck in my studio, but it gives me the it's kind of therapeutic too. Because if I were just sitting here waiting to get back to the stage and doing nothing for 10, 11 months, I absolutely would be in a loony bin by now.
I think we'd all be in the loony bin.
Yeah. So I mean, I truly have thrust myself into so many different musical and creative hats that it's given me the opportunity to truly just dig into exactly that, the creative side, and just keep that flow going. And I've taken things I normally would say no to. I've taken things that I normally wouldn't have time for, and it truly is it's help on every front, especially obviously the financial end. But it's I've been able to kind of add some new things to my arsenal from it, which is all. It was never a bad thing, It's as many years as I've been doing this, to be able to add something new or something different that I normally didn't have before is always a great thing.
Oh, well, I just learned how to cook, so.
Well, I'm talking truly musical here. Anything else, forget it. I've forgotten how to cook. I've forgotten how to eat. I learned how to drink a lot more vodka, that's for sure.
Oh, well, I learned how to drink more whiskey during this time, so we got that in common. So I guess the first question I have to ask is, now the group is called Wet, and it's obviously an anagram for the groups that you, Robert, and Eric are involved in with Work of Art, Eclipse, and Talisman. Who came up with the concept for the name? Was it you, or was it one of your buddies?
I think I did, and it was the only name that we didn't hate. I'm trying to remember the original working title name that we had for this thing, and it wasn't good. I was like, guys, we can't stay with this. This is terrible. And we threw a few things, and I think it was me that came up with the ideal that we come from three different bands, and you can hear the culmination of those three bands within the context of our music. And so why not pay homage to that in terms of this is how and why and what we sound like together because of these three different likenesses, these three different genres. And this is one they thought, yeah, but it basically says it all. And of course, even 11 years after the fact, it's 11 years since we put this thing together, people are still calling it W.E.T. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, I think when you say wet, you're thinking of something else. So WET actually does sound better.
I think that was part of the gag as well. We wanted to see how many people we could make uncomfortable with having a name like that, having to
I
call a band that. And there actually were other bands called Wet. There was even quite a big one called Wet 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 back in, I think it was the early 90s. So it's not very original, but by putting the dots in between it, we separated it so it's a combination of the three bands. And you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. So how did you hook up with Robert and Eric to start this project? Were you guys friends in the beginning, decided to venture into a new horizon with this group?
Not necessarily. I'd only been acquaintances with Robert up to that point. I'm sorry, with Eric. I'd met Eric before when I was out in Sweden doing some talisman-oriented things. So we only knew, he knew of me because he grew up with Ingve and Talisman all his life as part of his arsenal. The same with Robert. Um, but this was the brainchild of Serafino, the president of Frontiers, and we were pretty much the guinea pigs of what's become a regular thing over at Frontiers. Now that there are a dime a dozen, the kind of combination bands. I don't want to. I never considered us a super group because, especially the very first album when we were put together to make that record, nobody really had a name yet besides me. Even my name is kind of like, yeah, I heard of that guy. So we weren't really touted as a super group. It was more of a combo group of let's see what would come out of putting these three powerhouse songwriters, singers, talents, whatever together in one room. And that's exactly what, it was for all intents and purposes, it was just an experiment from Serafino. Now he's done a lot of experiments and you got a lot of these kind of groups floating around Frontiers, but we were one of the first because it was successful in the sense that we didn't have to be a real touring band where we had to follow up as most bands do. We could sell this music, we could sell this as a group based on the music alone. The music stood its own on its own merits, and from that, we've been able to continue making music together.
Well, that's good. You always want to make great music together. And just judging from what I'm hearing from this upcoming album that you're going to put out soon, Retransmission, it
Yeah,
just sounds phenomenal. It has a very 80s champion vibe to it. And
yeah.
that's what really drew me to it.
Thanks. And I give a lot of that credit to Eric Martinson. He truly is I guess he's the glue that puts this whole thing together. If this is a model airplane, he truly is the glue. He's there overseeing every aspect of the recordings to the production to the mixes, everything. And so I he truly deserves all the credit for especially this album because without him, this it wouldn't even be close to what you're hearing the end result.
I agree with you. I feel like Eric is a true visionary with who knows exactly what he's going for, and I'm glad you're working with him.
And the best part is he was able to build his own studio and not have to rely on other people's gear. He was able to put his dream vision together for all the things that he's doing, including Eclipse. And he's truly has become a master of what he does. So we all get to benefit from his learning and his experiences, his trial and error from the first album to now.
That's cool. Now let's talk about the new album, Retransmission. This is following in the footsteps of your third record, Earth Rage, which really put you guys on the map and pretty much will stand the test of time when it comes to rock and roll music. Can you tell me did you do that was different from Earth Rage compared
Not
to?
in fact, the kind of the reformation of how we looked at these records actually really started on the second one with Rise Up. The first album was pretty much Eric writing songs with his songwriting partner that does a lot of the stuff they do together for Eclipse and a lot of the other things that he does. Robert having a few of his ideas running through and kind of sifting through them and coming up with the songs for the first album. It was pretty much an in-house job. But from Rise Up, Eric started co-writing with other kind of pop writers and people that write different styles and genres of music. And that really added to the sound of Wet later because even as he would present us songs and said, guys, this might be a little too pop, it might be too soft, it might be too silky for us. I would say if it's a great song, it's a great song. We should do it, and whatever we do to it, it's going to sound like us anyway. I'm not worried about the genre side or the level of not hard rock enough or too hard rock. We'll make it sound like us in the end, and that's the most important thing. So the kind of the aim of what we were going for and the next steps of what we would take where we were taking this band truly started then. And it's no exception now. He continues to surround himself with other kinds of writers who write differently than his process, and we get to benefit from that.
Yeah, what a lineup you guys got around here with Magnus Henriksen on lead guitar, Andreas Passmark on bass, and Robin Bach on drums. Now I'm not too familiar with Wet's other members, but
Right.
were these guys on the last album, or are these new guys?
Everyone except for Andreas was on the very first album. Everybody that's on the current albums were there from the very beginning. Eric played bass on the first album because again, this was supposed to be a studio album. It wasn't supposed to be anything that went further any we're past that. Kind of in the same context of Talisman, to be honest. With Talisman, we were just making an album of Marcel Jacobs songs that he was going to use on the second John Norum solo album that never came to pass, and Talisman turned into a 17-year run career for me. So when we were making the videos for the first Wet thing, and because we were already using the fact the Talisman side of things, and we didn't have a bass player. This is before Andreas was part of the fold. That's why Marcel Jacob is on the first few videos that we did for the first album. When we were having to do live shows, of course, Marcel had taken his life. We didn't have the option of him joining us further. We realized we needed to find a bass player, and Andreas is one of those guys he's been in those guys' lives for so many years. He was the obvious choice. So from that point on, this is the lineup. It mainly was specifically guys from Eclipse that started this thing because Robin was the original drummer from Eclipse, as well as he is the original drummer from for Wet. But as they've changed drummers in Eclipse, Robin continues to be the only drummer for Wet.
All right, so basically, it's kind of nice that Eric's got his one of his old bandmates coming in to help him give the pulsating beat to each song that he feels will give it the backbone.
Absolutely. And to be fair, even though the band is derived, it was conceived by Serafino as the three of us. To be fair, the other members of the band are, without them, we wouldn't have what we have. They are contributing members in that sense, even though they're not really contributing to the songwriting, but their talents contribute to what the overall and the bottom line of what we all sound like in the end. So I give them the same amount of credit that we all get for piecing this thing together because they're very key components in what we're doing.
They are very key components, and they definitely deliver on all these great songs you guys have put together, from "Big Boys Don't Cry" to "Beautiful Game," "How Far to Babylon," on "What Are You Waiting For?" And I think my favorite song has got to be about love. And
Awesome.
with because with everything going on in this world right now, especially what happened last week, we won't get into that. But
Right.
it feels like we definitely need to have more love in this world than hate. Is that what was that your idea for "Gotta Be About Love"?
I didn't write the lyrics on that one, but I'm sure the lyrics were conceived by a Swedish writer in terms of the lyrics. So I'm gonna say yes because it's something that we're all going through globally, especially the pandemic and such. So in the end, people's true colors certainly have come out more during the pandemic, and there's been such a division and separation. And I tapped a lot of that into a lot of that on the latest Sons of Apollo and my solo album in terms of the lyrics. There is certainly a division, an unrest between people that I was able to really focus on. The overall structure is the theme is we need more love, we need more acceptance, we need to kind of put the social media away and stop letting all this bullshit divide us and find a way to actually bring us back as people. And the main key component always goes back to what the Beatles said: all you need is love.
And no truer words spoken than by those of John Lennon and Paul McCartney.
Absolutely.
Now,
On the same
besides,
thing,
I'm
and
sorry, go
it
ahead.
probably as long as we're alive.
Yeah, exactly. So besides "Gotta Be About Love," obviously, was there a particular song on here that you just gave it all you got and you just really connected with?
You know what? I kind of I do that regardless of whatever, if I'm writing on a song or not. I almost even enjoy, I even like bringing forth somebody else's vision and somebody else's kind of path lyrically and melodically. And I didn't write so much on this album. I think there are only 3 songs on the album that I co-wrote with the guys. But a song like "Gotta Be About Love," which I had nothing to do with, it was sent to me in its full form in terms of these are your melodies, these are your lyrics. Now just be you in delivering them. But I had a guide vocal that Eric sung originally, and I gotta say that's probably the one I connect to most because I love the structure of how the vocals start almost right from the right from the jump. Normally you have some kind of intro, you got like a 15 to 25 second intro that leads you into the vocal, but this one It's a quick little interlude, and you're in within 4 seconds, 5 seconds of the song. And we don't have a lot of that. We don't normally do that kind of structure in writing. So from the get go, I knew I had to sell the song within seconds of it entering into the first passage, and I think that's probably one that I really dove into the most.
All right. Have you guys put together any music videos for it? And if so, which ones are going to get it?
Well, yeah, the very first one was Big Boys Don't Cry. That was the first music video that came out in November. Second one, Gotta Be About Love, came out. I think it came out in December. And there's no music video for the third single, but there is a third single coming out on the release date, a song called One Final Kiss. It's one of the ones I did co-write. And I'm very happy that Frontiers liked that enough to want to put it out as a single. So we have two videos, and the third single is it's just going to be an audio single.
Okay, well, without giving too much away, what does One Final Kiss mean to you? And why that title?
It's kind of based on it's funny. There's an old soul song. I don't remember if it was the Spinners. It wasn't the OJs. It's an old one of the old R&B black groups from back in the 70s. They had a song called "Let's Just Kiss and Say Goodbye," and I've always loved this song. I love you got the bass baritone guy talking in the beginning, kind of a Barry White kind of thing, and then the singer takes it to a tenor kind of badass singing. There's rasp, there's killer backgrounds. I always loved that kind of stuff, that kind of song, and that title truly just fit that one final kiss that you have with somebody before you leave them, before you break up. But in the fact that I always write in double entendre anyway, that song is about a breakup in any sense, whether it's you're breaking up with the president of the U.S., whether you're breaking up with a former colleague or in a band or your boss. And so it can factor into so many different things in terms of that one final goodbye, and I use the word kiss in terms of that goodbye itself.
Well, that's cool, and it's a good little. It's got multiple meanings behind not just saying goodbye to a
Right.
former love, but also some like you said, your boss, your president, your friend, whoever it is. And I like that double meaning
I've
behind it.
I've stolen the double entendre uh, ideal of writing lyrics ever since even the old Queen days when I realized what the song Bicycle Race was about. When you're a kid listening to the song I want to ride my bicycle, you're going, how goofy is that? That how is that a song? How does that even make a single? Much less how does that make it on an album? Talking about I want to get on my bicycle and ride, but when you realize what's behind that, Freddie was speaking religiously, politically, socially. Everything was in within the context of that song. Of I'm just bombarded with all these different things that I just want to get on my bicycle and ride away and just escape from all of this. And that's what that was about. So I love the idea of writing in double entendre. I hate when you're writing a lyric and you know exactly what it's about based on the title or what the lyric is about. I love making it, I wonder if this is what he actually had in mind when he was writing this or she was writing this, more so than just the actual title is saying.
Yeah, and Freddie was definitely the man.
Oh yeah.
All right, we got time for a couple more quick questions. I want to obviously, as you know, last year was actually marked the 30th anniversary of Talisman's debut, self-titled debut album. So congratulations on that, 30 years ago. Wow. Looking back on that record, was there anything during that period where you were recording that you would do over again, or did you feel like it was like perfect the way it was recorded back then?
The only thing I disliked about the first two Talisman albums is the fact that we didn't use real drums on them. We didn't have a drummer. Again, this was supposed to be just Marcel Jacobs solo material or a solo album. I was basically brought in. I was his dear friend from back in the day when we were together with Ingve, and I was going to help him make this album. We didn't have the ideal that was going to turn into a group, a touring, whatever, all of the above. And so from that, Marcel demoed all the songs with a drum machine. And when we went into the studio, he took all the drums that were coming from the drum machine and replaced the cymbals with a real drummer with real cymbals. So it sounds it get you we get away with a lot of it on most of the record, but in the second album, it was drum machine with fake cymbals and hi-hats and all. And yet, even though we were actually talking about taking the Talisman drummer and going and re-record those first two albums, reissue them with Jamie playing drums on them, but we found that it was more a sacrilege that we were touching something that sounds the way it does to so many people. Kind of like when they tried to do that with the Blizzard of Oz and Diary. I'm sorry, Blizzard of Oz. Yeah, it was Diary of a Madman. There was a sacrilege in touching something that the original fans consider the holy grail of those albums. And we realized that if we do change this, we're going to change the overall foundation of where that group came from, where those songs came from, and we just leave Well Enough alone. So
Yeah,
that's the only thing I would have done differently, is to have real drums on them. But now, after thinking and considering it, I'm glad we didn't. We're just going to leave it as is. Let
it's
history just play out its course based on what we did on those songs.
and it's always good to have a reflection on the past recordings that you guys make and realize, yeah, you could go back and change something, but then you realize, you know what, it was actually good the way it was, and that I think even without the actual drums, I feel like it was a special record in a sense because you
Right.
create something different, something special with it.
Yeah, exactly, and that we decided to respect the process and respect the fact that it is what it is. By changing it, yeah, we might be able to change how we feel about it, or be able to put the drummer, the original drummer. I'm not sorry, the drummer that's been with us from basically since we got him in the band. He's been with us. We could add him to the fold, but then we're just messing with history, and let's just leave history alone.
I agree. All right, I got one more question, and this is a good one. You're stranded on a desert island. Now, since you are stranded, what are the three albums that you would bring with you so you don't go crazy?
Van Halen one, Queen, A Night at the Opera, and Jellyfish's second and last album, Spilt Milk. That's a no-brainer.
Well, those are good ones. Me, I would probably go with Van Halen for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, um, Megadeth, Rust in Peace, and Pearl Jam's 10.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just the
You can
combination
see
of.
you can see the difference in how we grew up musically.
Yeah, I mean, just the combination of thrash, classic hard rock, and of course the grunge period when it was happening. I really resonated with a lot with those kind of albums.
Couldn't agree more.
All right, well, Jeff, thank you so much for speaking with Uncivil Revolt once again. It's always a pleasure to speak with you.
You got it, man. Hopefully
Yeah.
we can do it again soon.
Oh yeah, and hopefully in a live setting.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, this was Jeff Scott Soto. Be sure to get W.E.T.'s brand new album in retransmission when it hits the airwaves January 22nd via Frontier Music. Jeff, you take care of yourself. Stay healthy, stay safe, love to the family, and keep rocking out the way Freddie intended it, with no
Ditto,
strings
my friend.
attached.
Ditto.
Ditto. All right, well, I'll talk to you later.
All right, bye-bye.